Hi, everyone, and welcome into Don't Tell Me How to Fan. My name is Josh Albrecht, and with me, as always, is my good buddy, John Taylor. John, how we doing?
Hey, Josh, doing well, doing well. Big sports week in a way. The NFL draft being this week, as well as some other big news we're going to be discussing this episode. So
Yeah, a lot of stuff to dive into. Let's not waste any time, John. Let's just get into it.
yeah,
Okay, first and foremost, the Bucks have a new head coach. It's not official at the time of us recording this, but it is reported, right, that Taylor Jenkins is going to be the next Bucks head coach. And I just love that. Well, before we get to the rumor mill and everything else starting, let's just look at it for what it is. What are your thoughts on the hire?
I love the hire first and foremost. I mean, I think we'll have a lot more conversations, but when you look at the type of coach that Taylor Jenkins is, and the type of coach that Giannis is on record for wanting, as well as like Bobby Portis as recently as this week saying they needed like a Budenholzer type. I don't think you can get more Budenholzer type than his like lead disciple. He's had guys, but you look at a guy like Taylor Jenkins, who was with him at the Hawks from 2013 to 2018, followed Bud to the Bucks in 18-19, and that's where he was head coach for the Grizzlies for 5 or 6 years. I mean, it's one of those situations where, sometimes if you want to admit you made a mistake, you kind of got to go back to the well. So it's not Bud, but it's Bud Light. I saw that floating around the
There
internet.
it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I think also the biggest thing is that it seemed like many people were saying, at least at this point, I mean, right, the NBA playoffs are still going on, but usually an NBA playoff leading coach is not on the hot seat usually. So you don't have to necessarily worry about the coaches that are still coaching in this year's season. However, it seemed like everyone was saying that he was the best available coach, right? So that made me feel good. Okay, great. So we went and got the best coach. What the biggest thing, though, is that there were reports from Sean Wright and others, and Giannis on his own Instagram overlooking the Deer District, that made it apparent that Giannis was still in town, and that the rumor mill flying around that he met with Taylor Jenkins and that he was part of the process in some way, shape, or form. What that involvement was, we don't know, but he was. This begs the question, do you think that this sways you, or does this sway you in any way, shape, or form on the odds that Giannis stays?
No. I think it's too early to call it one way or the other. I think what it ultimately shows is the Bucks still remain vigilant in trying to build a competitive roster that would keep Giannis around. Is it enough to keep him here? I don't know. Ultimately, that's going to be his decision. He can claim it's not, but if he doesn't sign the extension in October, then they're going to have to trade him. They're not going to let him walk for nothing. So, the conversation becomes something very different. I do believe that in this situation, what it does is he's the perfect hire for a myriad of reasons. Perfect's maybe not the right word. He's probably the best option for a team that let Doc Rivers go 10 days ago to already have hired a new coach. And like you said, before the first round of the playoffs is over, it speaks to this idea that very clearly the Bucks think he's the man for the job. And they did a full court press. I think those were Eric Name's word when he wrote his article for The Athletic, that both owners flew to Memphis without Giannis to do a full court press to convince Taylor Jenkins. Enough so that they were able to get a second meeting here in Milwaukee. Like you said, around the same time it was reported where Giannis posted that Instagram story saying that the Deer District should be packed right now. So it just tipped the hat that Giannis typically leaves to Greece pretty quickly, and he didn't. So
reason to stay.
Yeah, I mean, well, and I do want to take a moment before I continue to answer your question about how I feel about it, to say that it's very funny that Shams did not get the scoop. It was, I think, Malik who got it. And also Shams on NBA Today saying, like, there's been no reason to assume that they've been in contact with Giannis. And it's just, like, so clearly, like, flying in the face of that reporting. So I don't know what Cold War or standoff is going on between Shams and the Bucks, but between the comments he had on the Pat McAfee show a few weeks ago, and also some of the weird, and hindsight being 2020, some of the weird, like petty, like social media stuff the Bucks is doing, it's like everyone's just got to let it go. I don't know what's going on. It's got to stop. It's real weird. It's Giannis isn't.
I don't think.
No, I don't think so. It won't stop until Giannis retires, no matter what the situation is. But my main point just being that they clearly wanted him. And so, of course, you're going to involve Giannis in that search. They clearly want him. So, of course, you're going to make sure that he can get in Giannis's ear. Like, it's been very vocal that they've always had a fantastic relationship. When you look at the way that this team has fallen short, like Taylor Jenkins feels like the right guy for that. And then ultimately, the reason why I think they needed to hire him when they did, and whether or not Giannis stays or not, it's a great hire, is because, Taylor Jenkins has a track record of taking a lottery team and getting them to some success. And granted, the Grizzlies hit really hard with Ja Morant and Desmond Bane. They did a lot of things right to get them where they're at, but it's very clear the guy knows how to coach. He had a winning record. And honestly, I think the messaging maybe got stale, and he was a victim of circumstance. You look at the last 2 years with the Grizzlies, it's like I forget the year before he was let go, he had to play 33 different lineups due to injuries. This is when Ja Morant's, inability to stop flashing firearms at clubs was going on. Sure. So there's just a lot not related to Taylor Jenkins. And then coupled, and I just want to throw out too, the GM and organization made him fire 5 of his assistants leading up to this last year with the Grizzlies, and they made him install 2 new offensive assistant coaches who he didn't select. They both ran wildly different offenses, and they started off pretty hot in the beginning, but as those relationships strained and those ideologies, I think that he lost the locker room. So he was never set up for success with the Grizzlies. And I think it's a lot easier to look at. And what I'm excited about is all the things he was able to do right with them, which was clean up rebounding. They rated really highly in possessions. They aren't a heavy 3-point shooting team, and who knows if he's going to want to try to do that now that the league is even more so a 3-point shooting team, even in the 2 years that he hasn't been coaching. But what I will say is that they won through sheer possessions, not turning the ball over, prioritizing offensive rebounds. And boy, doesn't that sound like something Bucks fans were praying for over and over again all season long. So
yeah, 100%. Although I do have to say, for me personally, I think that this does elevate the odds of Giannis staying slightly. I'm not going to say a lot, but I will say slightly, because if I'm Taylor Jenkins, I'm looking at this Bucks team and I'm going, either I am going to be taking over in a major rebuild mess. I've seen the headlines. I've seen how ugly things have gotten. I've seen how terrible the whole situation and vibes around Milwaukee has been. Or I'm going to get to coach Giannis, right? Like, if I'm him and I'm being told by national pundits that I am the one, if not the top coaching guy out there available, best coach available on the free agent market, I'm absolutely asking to talk to Giannis. I'm absolutely asking for Giannis to be a part of this process, not for the Bucks, but for me. I want to know where the hell he's at. I'm making my decision based on what Giannis tells me. Now, Giannis could have also said to him, I don't know. It's not up to me. He could have told him the same exact answers that he told the media in regards to, well, I'm an employee and it's not up to me. And, as long as the Bucks want to keep me here, blah, blah, blah. He could say all the same stuff, I assume. But if I'm Taylor Jenkins, there's no way that I'm saying yes to this job without knowing Giannis's future, or at the very least being able to talk to Giannis about that future. So Shams coming out and saying that Giannis wasn't involved in this at all is insane to me, because that makes me go, then Taylor Jenkins is an idiot.
Yeah.
No way that he takes his job without wondering if he has one of the best players in the world or not.
Yeah, I think one of the ways you could look at that too is like, okay, so maybe the Bucks didn't enlist Giannis in the help of finding the next coach. I don't believe that. But let's say we want to be that charitable on that report. Like, to your point, if I'm the head coach, I'm reaching out to Giannis. Hey, is it cool if I talk to your star if I'm going to take this job?
Right.
I think that is well within their right. So, I mean, whether he had a hand in the search, ultimately, Taylor probably is also speaking to Giannis, trying to figure out what the situation is. I do want to also point out the fact that, like I said, the the immediacy that they were willing to jump on it also makes me feel like this is more of a play to go. This is who we believe to be one of the best, if not the best option in this head coaching cycle. We can beat it before the full rat race really begins. Because truthfully, there are teams in the playoffs who will probably let their coach go. I mean, you can look as much as like Tiago Splitter with the Blazers they're not going to hire him. And so, that's a vacancy about. There's a couple others. So anyways, the point being, they chose to hire him quickly, and they also chose to hire him knowing they're going to have to pay him a salary that is significantly higher than what you would do if you were elevating an assistant coach to head coach for the first time. And what that screams to me specifically is they're spending money because they believe that they have enough pieces to continue to keep trying to not only lock down Giannis long-term, but get back to the playoffs and contending for championships, because that is like absolutely what everybody involved is wanting. And so you take a look at it and you go, they're paying Adrian Griffin and Doc Rivers their salary next year, and they still went out and got a certified head coach. This isn't this isn't a hey, maybe this will work. This isn't a fall guy to like get you to your next head coaching job. Like Taylor Jenkins is a legitimate head coach in the NBA. He was off last year, but hey, if he comes back looking like Bud did after his year off, it's like sometimes these guys just need a little break and then they come right back into it. So.
They need a little time. I have to say, when you brought up like what this move meant to the Bucks and paying him and making that decision, I'm not giving the Bucks any credit when it comes to paying coaches, because the fact that they're still paying Doc, even though Doc came out in that article and said the decision was 100% mine, and yet they're going to pay him 8 figures. I don't understand. I don't want to hear that this idea of, well, look at all the coaches they're paying. Apparently that doesn't matter. Apparently that doesn't matter to the Bucks, because that was crazy to me when that news came out that they were going to still do that. I don't understand it. I don't understand why they're trying to keep this relationship with Doc at the level it is. I've been so confused on it. And the only reason why it's not the most frustrating thing in the world is because I know he's not going to be coaching the team. Yep. And so it's kind of like, all right, I think you're dumb. I don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, Bucks, but he's not coaching the team. He's not in the locker room. So
yeah, I mean, my guess is they're paying him hush money. They probably came to him and said, we're going to let you go. And he was like, or we want you to step down. And he was like, probably not, because he's all about that paycheck, that sweet, sweet paycheck, Doc Rivers, famously. Sure. That's actually true. If the Bucks go in and say, hey, we just need you gone. Like, you can say you're retiring. We'll still pay you out. It'll be on your terms. If there's opportunities for, an advisory role, maybe so be it. But ultimately, it's a win that somehow Doc Rivers is not our VP of basketball operations, like how Brad Stevens retired and moved up to that role with the Celtics. Like, the fact that Doc Rivers will have nothing to do with this organization, he doesn't right now technically. That's a win. That is a huge win. There's no arguing that. Ultimately, we just need to see something different. And I think obviously as the offseason continues to roll on, and the lottery is coming soon, the Bucks are going to have a lottery pick for the first time in a very, very long time. So we'll be able to look into that. I'm excited to deep dive some options once we actually lock in our pick. So there's a lot to be excited about. I would be way more excited if Giannis was still a part of the team for hilarious and obvious reasons. But I will say this team is positioning themselves to not just punt as soon as Giannis leaves. And think about what the Bucks were once Ray Allen, Sam Cassell, and Gleb Robinson left. Yeah, it's it could get real bleak real fast. And I'm hoping that while competing for a championship is going to be maybe 50 years challenging again, I definitely don't want to see the types of teams that we were trotting out in the mid 2000s. So
yeah, winning is important in Wisconsin. That is always, winning changes everything. And we need more winning out of the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going to talk about them, our concerns, and the things we are positive on with the Milwaukee Brewers when we come back on Don't Tell Me How to Fan. Stay tuned. All right.
Now what?
Come back, Brew Crew.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I got a ton to say on Brewers. So.
Great. Send it. Send it.
I'll just fucking go off.
Yeah.
I'm going to go at 15.
Cool. Dude, my beard trimmer kind of died while I was trimming my mustache, and now I have this like weird like Abraham Lincoln look, and it's driving me fucking crazy.
Yeah, it looks great though. All right, here we go. John's mustache looks great. Welcome back, everyone, to Don't Tell Me How to Fan. Josh Albright here, John Taylor there. We just got done talking about Giannis, the Bucks, Taylor Jenkins being the new head coach. Exciting and quick movements from the Bucks. A little bit frustrating and question probing things going on with the Milwaukee Brewers right now. Not in first place, but not far out of first place. The Brewers are finding ways to survive right now. Is that fair to say? Can we just say that? The Milwaukee Brewers are dealing with injuries. They are dealing with a lot of things that they're trying to figure out as they work through these injuries. They're waiting to get Churio back and Yelich and a whole bunch of other people.
Andrew Vaughn and Christian Yelich. And
But at the end of the day, they're struggling in areas where they don't. And it's making it very frustrating to watch Brewer games as a fan. At the time of this recording, they just lost a rubber match to the Detroit Tigers. And in a day game where they were going up against Skubal, and they got him. He was frustrated. He was upset. Blake Perkins, stud coming through, ties the game 3-3, knocks him out of the game in the 7th. Everything that you wanted. Then they take the lead. They go up 4-3 in the top of the 8th, and they can't hold on again, and they end up losing on a walk-off homer in the bottom of the 9th, 5-4. John, here's why this is really, really irritating and making it to where, as much as I love the Brewers, and I've had this conversation, from team to team, season to season, it just can be fun or frustrating. Teams can be fun or frustrating. Right now, at least, this team is very frustrating. Even when they win, it's frustrating. Here's the biggest reason why I'm saying that. You have injuries in the starting rotation. You have injuries up and down your lineup. You have new guys. You have struggling guys up and down your lineup. The one area that was touted, that was talked about, that was solid, was supposed to be the bullpen. I don't understand why it seems like the bullpen's just the most unreliable part of this team. I thought for sure that it was going to be, all right, starting pitching is not going to go long, but hopefully they'll get enough run support, and then we'll go to the bullpen in the 4th or 5th, and then they'll just have to carry us the rest of the time, but we have the bullpen to do it. We had all these guys. We added Zerpa. We added other guys throughout the offseason. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it is. McGill, he's blowing saves, blowing games. Uribe, he's blowing games, blowing saves. Zerpa, blowing games, blowing. It doesn't matter who they're putting out there. DL Hall was struggling like crazy. Then they decided to put him in front of Chad Patrick in the Tigers series and had him pitch, and he pitched 2 great innings. Okay, but you're not going to have him start 2 innings after, for every game. And then Patrick gave up 4 runs in 4 innings to follow that. So did it even work? I'm so frustrated because this is the one area of this team that is supposed to be carrying us right now during this hard time that's not going to last forever, right? We're just waiting for our bats to come back. We're waiting to get some consistency in the lineup and in our starting rotation. I mean, I believe that, I don't know if it's still the case, but at one point, first 23 games of the season, at least, they had the same lineup or a different lineup. Every single game, a different lineup. Like, clearly, Murph and this Brewers team is trying things. They're trying to figure things out. They see the amount of guys that are batting under 200. They're trying whatever they can to light sparks, get something going. But the bullpen is supposed to be the thing that doesn't let us down, and it keeps letting us down. And that rubber match against the Tigers was, that was such a tough watch, because you knew that was a big one to win, especially when the entire NL Central, John, is doing things and going off. This is not a situation where the Brewers can play mid above 500 baseball and still be in first place because the rest of the Central sucks. At least right now, the Central is showing up. It might not be that way at the end of 162 games, but at least for right now, it is. And it's frustrating.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, it's one of those things, I feel like a major theme of this show has always been injuries derailing our hopes for our teams. And I think like right now, this is exactly what's going on. I think like as frustrated as you are about the situation that we find ourselves in and the way we're losing these games, you could equally be as excited on the opposite side of that coin that they're above 500. It's kind of a miracle given all the guys that they got out. A lot of the interesting lineups are also against left-handed pitching, right? Like you start gaming the system when all of a sudden you lose Vaughn, you lose Churio, you lose Yelich, you use guys who can kind of mash on everyone and guys who can play the matchup. So you get guys. I mean, who was in center field? It's like we got a lot of guys who were never supposed to be playing. Greg Jones, Luis Matos, yeah.
True,
Mitchell,
those guys.
I mean, Mitchell's supposed to be there. They optioned Blake down to the minor leagues, and he's been back ever since and has been playing every game since like the start of the season. So it's one of those things they're finding ways to win with guys that they have no business being on this roster. Like the only guy in the outfield who is doing exactly what he should be doing is kind of Blake Lockridge, because anything he does offensively is kind of a win,
Yeah.
And he's leading off in this game against the reigning AL Cy Young Award winner. Like you can call this a rubber match. It's a miracle the Brewers were even close in this game. Like Tariq Skubal, more times than not, them getting 2 runs in the first inning is usually enough to just close the game, right? We don't even have a pitcher that we would feel comfortable throwing 7 innings right now. And they trotted him out, and it was a miracle that we got those runs given the way our bats.
John, but they got to him.
They did. You're right. They did get to him. And that's all you can hope for. I mean, this one is on Uribe. He threw a meatball over the plate.
Sure, you can replace Uribe with bullpen pitcher. This one's on blank bullpen guy.
Right.
That's
the bullpen's
problem.
not great. The bullpen's not great right now. You're not going to hear me argue. I think part of the reason why you're seeing piggybacking is is there a world where they move Chad Patrick into a setup, into the bullpen like they did in the playoff series against the Dodgers last year? Like, I think if Quentin Priester is back and healthy, when he's back and healthy, I don't think the depth is going to get shuffled. It's going to be rearranged, and I think that's going to be a big deal. When they get, hopefully, who am I? Oh man, I should have had this pulled up a little bit more. My apologies, listeners. There's just other guys. I mean, the pitching has been tested almost immediately, and it's like forcing a lot of guys in the starting rotation that also shouldn't be there. So, it's like, oh, Robert Gasser could come back. All of a sudden you start looking at like, what are the ways that this lineup gets changed so the bullpen isn't just basically Aaron Ashby, Abner Uribe, Grant Anderson, and Trevor McGill, because that's kind of all it is. Zerpa has been okay. I think he still needs more time to really like figure out what he is throwing and what he needs to do. And the pitching lab, I don't know if they fully solved what he can do. He's not a huge strikeout guy. They're going to make contact, so they need to figure that out clearly, because he can't keep giving up hits in setup roles in the 8th. Like, he's just not that guy. And so
I just don't know who is that guy. I think that's the biggest frustration, is that as we tried to figure this out with everyone else, even if the bats were cold, like they have been, let's be honest, right? Besides Turang, Mitchell, and Gary Sanchez once in a while, the bats have been relatively cold.
Yeah.
However, if you have the starting pitching, which we've had, which can we not admit has been better than we thought it would be? I mean, we've seen, like, Woody had an amazing outing. Miz has settled in. He's been doing okay.
Kyle Harrison's been great. Yeah.
Sproat,
besides the pitch today, Sproat looked great. It's like if he's turning it around, it's just we're bleeding out, but it's death by 1,000 cuts. I mean, that's really what's going on. And so the thing I feel hopeful about is just like, you get Churio back in a couple weeks, you get Yelich back next month, you get Andrew Vaughn back next month. All of a sudden, the pitching isn't being tested so hard because Sal's not playing well right now. To your point, it's today at the time of recording. The Tigers game just ended, not just ended, but you get my point. It ended today. Tyler Black could have already made his debut against Paul Skeens and the Pirates on Friday. So it's like we have guys, we have options. Jet Williams could still come up. Joey Ortiz laid down a couple of hits today, so I still don't think he's the long-term answer, but defensively he's pretty incredible. But even look like a guy like David Hamilton, who's doing everything right. You're watching a guy make a lot of stupid mistakes because he's just playing too much. This was Blake last year when you start going like, okay, it's fun flashes, but at the end of the day, they're going to show you who they are if you play them, that's just kind of where we're at, sadly. So,
yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think the biggest concern for me and the reason why I'm worried about the bullpen is because, and I get what you're saying, that maybe there's not as much stress on the bullpen, but I don't know. The bullpen gets used. It gets used every day. The idea of a complete game from your start, that doesn't exist anymore. So maybe you can put some Scriboon in because you're up 5 runs, but we've seen enough examples even this season already to where you think it's safe, and then, it ends up not being, and then they still have to go to one of their big guys to shut it down, and then those guys don't get it done. And there's no one on the injury list right now that's a huge name for the bullpen that we're waiting to get back. We have that with starting pitching. We have that with the lineup where we're waiting for pieces. There's no big piece on the injured list that's going to be like a huge momentum shift and changer for the bullpen. So that's my concern, is that if the bullpen is really struggling this poorly, even when all those pieces come back and they're more consistent, maybe we're winning games. But if we're winning games, we're winning them 8-6, 5-4. It's still going to be way closer than it needs to because the bullpen's just not locking it down. And I understand that all teams deal with this. I understand this is usually a problem. This is why a lot of times the Brewers win games by getting to the other team's bullpen, and then they start pecking away and they put runs on the board in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. That's been the recipe for success for the Brewers. Now I feel like, though, it's also turning on the Brewers, and it's also the recipe to beat the Brewers, because right now I don't feel comfortable with any of them. McGill, Uribe, you name them. There's no one that if they put him on the mound, I go, all right, this guy's getting 3 outs.
Yeah.
And that's
well, it's hard too because you're seeing Grant having to work so many high leverage spots. You're watching Ashby get pitched in almost every single game, and he's shown he can handle it, but he loses his effectiveness when he's pitching 4 out of 5 games in, or 4 out of 6 games in a 6-game series. It's just a lot. That Jared Koenig injury hurt more than you realize. My only counter to you is that there's still more pitching to pull from. So, like I said, Robert Gasser can come back. That shifts things back around a little bit. If DL Hall continues to at least get control and command of his stuff, he's somebody you can start looking forward to. But we need Koenig back. There's a reason why people thought McGill needed to be on the move. It seemed like the idea that he was going to replicate his dominating season from last year. And like you said, it's early enough that all of these guys could turn it around. But I do understand how jarring it is to be a Brewers fan and going, we have the most dominant pitching staff in the league for like the 7th year in a row. And you're looking at it going, well, what happened to it? And the answer is a small sample size has happened to it, okay. But a lot of guys are going to need to figure their stuff out. Because at the end of the day, like the bullpen can't be blowing games the way they've blown the last couple because the offense is fighting tooth and nail. I mean, how many games in the last 6 games have we had multiple innings with just bunts, guys trying to get on base, trying to manufacture
however they can.
Exactly. And so to have these games be lost by the bullpen late, it hurts. It just hurts. There's no way around it. It hurts.
Yeah. It hurts. It hurts a lot. And I understand, to your point, as you said, it is early. It's still very early in the season. However, if this was a one-guy problem, I think it would be easier to figure out. If it was just a Trevor McGill issue, if it was just a Uribe issue, then we go, all right, everyone else is solid. We just need to have this guy figured out. We can work through that on days, however Pat Murphy and his team thinks they want to. It seems to be a bigger than just one guy issue, and that's where things can become concerning. It's no different than exactly my thoughts on the Green Bay Packers and what they're going to do in the draft this year, because it's not a one-guy issue. There are a lot of holes that need to be filled. And we're going to talk about the NFL draft and the Green Bay Packers when we come back on Don't Tell Me How to Fan. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you want me to talk about the draft because it's unfortunate. This is what my point last week. Like, there's guys that I think the Packers should take that could get drafted tonight.
Yeah.
And we won't know for another couple hours. So
I think the big way that I want to kind of just talk about it is bring up just some of the guys they talked about. You don't got to go like super in depth, just
yeah,
a few of the guys that you think might be there. And then also then just get into positions. And we'll just preface it by saying, like, look, at the time of this recording, we don't know what they've done yet.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network, you do. But we're going to talk about it because we don't know. And
cool.
it'll be fine. Okay?
Yeah. Well, if you also want to, like, frame some of the conversation around the stuff I was talking about last week. Like, I know you kind of remember I'm assuming you remember some of the guys or some of the stuff that I at least discussed. I mean, I can keep talking about it, but I more mean specifically, whatever. We'll just talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be fine. Yeah. Also, I found out that they changed the clock. So the last segment is 13:15 now instead of 14:15. Just so you know.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. We will go at
31.
31.
Yeah, makes sense. Ty Simpson was just drafted.
Oh, God, already?
By the Rams.
Nice.
They traded up to the Rams. Anyways.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Don't Tell Me How to Fan. I'm Josh Albrecht. That's John Taylor. We have covered the Bucks. We have covered the Brewers. It's time to talk about the Green Bay Packers. And full disclosure, if you are listening to this on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network, or if you're watching us on Don't Tell Me How to Fan on Not Done Yet Media on YouTube, you're seeing this probably, maybe, or hearing it after the Packers have already drafted. At the time of recording, they haven't. So we're going to still tell you our opinions, our needs, who we would like them to go get. And it will be really awesome if that ends up being the case. And more disappointing for next week if they go in a completely different direction. John, before we get into some of the guys that you absolutely want to see, I want to talk about the needs and positions. We had Wayne Larrivee on the Inside Wisconsin Sports Trevor and Josh program, the morning show on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. And I was talking to him a little bit, mostly about if the Packers were going to move up or if they were going to do something. And everyone's been saying that there's a lot of gray area between the end of the first round and the beginning of the second round to where it's not as cut and dry. And Wayne said that there was 18, what he saw is 18 round one graded players in the draft, which no matter what, the Packers were never getting there, which definitely makes it seem like it's the perfect year to not have a first round pick. No?
Yeah, big time. I would say that is 100% correct.
How crazy is that? Like, I mean, obviously this is Goody's job. This is the Packers' job. They have scouts. Right. They have people that know us. But you make a move like this. It's the first year you don't have a first round pick in a very long time. And I mean, they've had first round picks that they've traded away or that they've traded, out of the first round. But going into the draft, not having a first round pick, it's been a while. You make that trade for Micah Parsons. And now it's in a draft that's not super great draft of the decade type stuff. It just seems like way to go Packers. Like that's a great time to make this type of move.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I'd have a hard time believing that you could have forecasted a better draft to not have a first round pick. Next year is a different conversation. There is widely considered we're rubber banding from what many believe to be like one of the worst drafts in the last like 15 years to maybe one of the better drafts in the next, the last 15 years. So the great news about that for Packers fans, if you're feeling downtrodden, that you still have Micah Parsons on your team next year and not a first round pick. There's a lot of compensatory picks coming, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities to trade the picks that we have to maybe try to get up next year. And also something that I don't remember what I was reading pointed out that they just straight up have too many picks for where their roster is going to be sitting next year. So they're going to have to do some wheeling and dealing. Gutekunst came out and had his press conference. And I think he was on record as saying like, it's going to be really hard watching 51 players get drafted for the Packers. He is a fiend for trading up when there's a guy that he likes, to Wayne Larravee's point. I also agree. I would say 18 is being generous. I think Wayne was being kind to this group. I don't have more than 15 first round, like with a bullet draft picks in this round. And you always talk about like quarterback tax. At the time of recording, the Rams traded up and drafted Ty Simpson. And I couldn't not say this into a microphone. That's crazy. I mean, the Matthew Stafford pick, I thought for sure there was a real chance that only one quarterback was going to be taken in the first round. That's how bad this class is. I understand if you think you can get him in. Trust me, if anybody could do it, Sean McVay's the man. It literally just happened like 20 minutes ago. So I just want to get that out there. Point being, we are going to see players fall at the time of this recording as well. Gerard McCoy still hasn't been drafted. And there's been a lot of made about his medicals. He's the cornerback from Tennessee. If he can get healthy, that dude is a stud. And what made me started thinking about that was, what are the types of guys that the Packers should actually trade up for? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't think there's a lot. I think I think if like a Gerard McCoy, a Colton Hood, a Chris Johnson, you'll notice a little theme here. They're all cornerbacks. Looking at Goody's press conference to now, he kind of tipped his hand on what they're looking for. He said they're going to get he said they're going to attack the cornerback position with multiple guys. Maybe you could infer that he said multiple guys when he was making that comment. So that's why I bring that up. But I mean, I can see a world where they get 2 cornerbacks in the first 4 rounds or four picks of their stuff. So to answer your question, I don't know if there's a ton of guys worth trading up for. And I don't know what Wayne was saying, if it's a good idea or not, but I think I think it's going to be a situation where the only way the Packers are going to really trade up is if they believe a guy of big value fell to them. I don't think this is a draft, and as much as it breaks my heart to say, this is not a draft you trade up to go get a guy like Chris Johnson. He's just not guaranteed. Chris Johnson is a cornerback out of San Diego State. I think he would come in and immediately become our best cornerback, but you could say that about a bunch of other guys around that same time. The cornerback room is such that I don't think it would be very challenging to get any number of cornerbacks in the second, third, fourth round to come in and challenge it. So is it worth trading up? Ultimately, I land on probably not. And like we said, at the time of this recording, you'll have already known what happened, so it makes it less interesting. But when you take a look at the consensus top like 100 players, when you take a look at the top 30 visits the Packers have been doing, I think it is like really, really likely that the Packers could or did already trade down into the mid 60s to try to just get some more assets and maybe attack with the depth, because there's a lot of really good cornerbacks in the 3rd and 4th round. There's some good defensive tackles in the 2nd and 3rd round. I think those are the 2 biggest positions of need. And I think this is weirdly a really good draft to just raise the floor of both of those position groups without having to sink too much additional capital to try to go find a guy. So
sure. The one position that that Wayne did bring up on the show that I thought was interesting, we were talking about an edge rusher, and he was talking about, someone that's going to line up opposite of Micah Parsons and be that guy for the first few games when you don't have Micah Parsons. And I said, okay, but Wayne, if they're drafting an edge guy, because he said like cornerback will probably be the first use. And I said, if they're getting an edge guy in the 3rd or 4th round, if they're not using their 2nd round pick to get one, is that even going to be a guy that we feel comfortable coming right out the gate and being able to play and make an impact in the first year? And he was very confident in saying that this is of all the positions, this is a very deep edge draft. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are guys that they could get. There's been a lot of smoke around Dennis Sutton out of Penn State. There's been a lot of smoke around Romello Heights from Texas Tech, who they had in on a top 30 visit. You look at some other guys that are around that, and I will tell you that in a second. You've got like Zion Young, you've got Gabe Hawkes. I mean, there's a few guys that I think fit the measurables that they really like, while also being a type of player that they could go for. I mean, at the end of the day, the second most important position in the NFL behind quarterback is edge rusher. So Wayne's not wrong in the sense that you should always be restocking the cupboard. And when you look at a guy like LVN, and the fact that Goody was pretty non-committal about offering, he said they'd like to offer a 5th extension. I don't know if I would if I were them. Has he done enough to make you think he's earned that 50-year extension? And I don't have that answer. So I think there is likelihood. A big piece of me saying they could or might have traded back, and remember, folks, this is timestamped to a Thursday, is that I firmly believe that you could trade back, get an edge rusher. If they trade down, it's going to be to get like deny Dennis Sutton at a pick that they can actually manage. So I think there are options. And when you look at best player available versus positional value versus team need, I definitely think if it's a triangle, I definitely think the Packers are going to skew positional value and team need over just best player available. Because I'll tell you what, and I'll keep saying it. If I live in a world right now where you're hearing this and they drafted like Jadarian Price, that will bum me out. Even if I think he's going to be a stud, it just seems like just a really a pick that does not necessarily serve what the Packers are trying to do in 2026. And as a fan, that would bum me out. So
yeah. So let me ask you this: will you be disappointed if, I guess I should say, at what level of the Packers moving down will get you to the point of where you're bummed? Because it doesn't seem like what about if they move out of the second round completely?
I don't think they can. I just straight up don't think they can. I think would it bum me out? Yes. But that's just because I think there's guys in the second round who could come in and immediately affect that football, affect the games. Specifically, sorry, I have so many players swirling around in my head. I apologize for the slips of the tongue here. But I think, like I said, you go deny Dennis Sutton, you could trade into the 70s, which is sliding 20 picks back. You're still in the third round, but now you're looking at a guy who, you could get a Dominique Orange in that situation. You could get Julian McNeil. You could get a Dalen Everett. You could get a cornerback that you think is going to fall. The interesting thing about this draft too is that the consensus is not in agreement about where these guys are going to be. Like at the start of the draft process, you were seeing cornerback from Ohio State, Davison Igbinosun being a clear and obvious 52, and there's guys who have him as a late third, early fourth round draft pick. So it's nobody really agrees on this board. And I think a lot of the leaks you're getting from scouts and GMs is they're after the first round, it's going to be a lot of popcorn seeing who's valuing what, because this is going to be a year where I don't think the consensus board really is going to tell you that much. Usually when you stray from it, you really don't hit, but I don't know if anybody is really in agreement. I think this is a draft where there's some interesting depth pieces we're discussing. And I think if you're a GM or you're a scout staff, if you do your homework in a draft, you should go up and get it. This isn't fully answering your question, but most people have Dominique Orange as pick 70s or 80s, right? In that round, the Packers could stick and pick him at 52, and I would have no complaints. He did some testing at his pro day. He got a solid 8.84. People are liking him to a Kenny Clark, but his agilities and measurables are a little better than Kenny's. Not to say that's easy to do or just going to be a copy and paste, but you could reach 20 picks and I'd go, okay, great. There was conversation about them really liking Caden Proctor, another explosive one tech penetrating nose tackle, which they desperately need. And a lot of consensus has him in the 110s, 115s. It's you tell me they draft him in the third round after reaching for Dalen Everett in the second. I'm okay, great. These are Packers guys. And they're just way more interested in locking these down than trying to fit the draft board. And whether that's a good or bad thing, I don't know. But this is a year where I would encourage, and I would never tell anyone how to fan. I would encourage you to just not look at the beast and go, why did we draft this bad player? Because nobody's really in agreement. So.
Sure. The only reason why I'm not completely ruling out the idea of them moving out of the second round is because it's 13 picks. That's the difference, right?
Yeah.
From pick 52 to pick 65 to start the third round. Yeah. If they were in the top 10 of the second round, I'd go, okay, maybe not. But you're still in the bottom half of the second round. I could see it. If there's really not a guy there, I could see them drafting, who knows, 3 guys in the third round or 4 guys, whatever. Who knows? Goody could do all sorts of crazy things, and we will see. By the time that this airs on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network, everyone listening right now will be like, yeah, we know, and this is what they did, and we can't wait to react with all of you next week on Don't Tell Me How to Fan. Hopefully, we have a lot of good things. We'll definitely be able to give some recaps and our thoughts on the players that the Packers do draft, along with hopefully some better news on the Brewers and knowing that the Brewers have figured things out and maybe sweep a team. That would be good before the next time we are back together here on Don't Tell Me How to Fan. John, thanks for another good episode. Thank you to all of you for tuning in and being a part of the show. We appreciate it. Make sure to tune in next time because we are not done yet.